Hello and welcome to Pluralsight, IT Ops News and Talk. I'm Don Jones, and this is our show for October 2015. Throughout the presentation, if you've joined us for the live broadcast, I invite you to submit your questions of our guests. I'll incorporate those into the show. And if you're watching this later, consider joining us live on the last Tuesday of the month. Watch @Pluralsight on Twitter for schedule announcements. Let's start with a quick review of the most interesting IT Ops news bits from this month. First up, Microsoft has announced trial availability of Windows Server containers running in Azure, which can be managed alongside Linux containers through Docker. This is the first production peek at Microsoft's take on containers, a feature we'll get on-prem in Windows Server 2016. Containers offer a very different model for virtualization than a traditional hypervisor, something we'll talk more about with my guest later in this very show. And in what may have been the most surprising $67 billion deal of the month, Dell has acquired EMC, owners of RSA Technologies, and perhaps most importantly, of VMware. Want to run virtual machines? Dude, you're getting a Dell. This move puts Dell even more firmly at odds with their sometime partner Microsoft, with the two companies now overtly competing in one of the most important spaces in the industry. Dell, who presumably has the phone number of every CIO and CTO on Earth, now has a whole new line of products to sell and will likely see hardware integrated solutions coming out of the company at an even faster pace. This is a massive move, one that would probably not have been possible prior to Michael Dell and his investors taking the company private not so long ago. It'll be extremely interesting to see how this new position plays out. And what's interesting is that the acquisition comes at a time when hypervisor-based virtualization has hit its first real competitor, containers. And even more interesting, because of all the hypervisor players, VMware doesn't yet have a real container solution as part of their stack. And speaking of competing with Dell, Microsoft announced its Surface Pro 4 Ultra Portable, positioned firmly against Apple's high-margin line of laptops, as well as the company's profitable line of tablets. Microsoft being in the hardware game feels like the entire world being upside down, and seeing them deliver a pretty solid product is even stranger for industry veterans to conceive of. If the company can pull its struggling mobile business out of the grave, it'll be positioned to again become a dominant player in the latter half of this decade. And lest you think we only care about VMware and Microsoft here, we had some hot news this month on RTL, or Real-Time Linux. Early this month, the Linux Foundation announced RTL as a new collaborative project designed to serve as an OS for platforms requiring real-time processing, including things like robotics, telecommunications, manufacturing, and more. RTL itself isn't new, but as an open collaborative project, it'll let big industry players jump into the pool and potentially accelerate the product's development. It's quite possible that advances in RTL will filter down through to other Linux distributions, enabling faster processing for key workloads.